So as a young girl growing up, I always dreamt about my wedding, my marriage, and did a lot in that line that ordinarily didn't seem obvious because of the setting I grew up in. I grew up in a proper Muslim setting. My parent then, uh, then I thought the cool word was to call her my guardian, but now that I'm older, I think the right word is to call her my parent. Is such a staunch Muslim that today she's a Hajjat. But this Hajjat loved me so much as her firstborn daughter, in that when we were younger, as like in P4, me, I was extreme already. I used to follow Joyce Meyer, Benny Hinn, and so this one time, I remember Joyce Meyer came to Uganda, and she would take me for the Joyce Meyer conferences. Hajjat taking Doreen for the local things. So that was, for me, I think she really went out of her way to just be a parent, love me, groom me, and give me the best that she could. Aunt Mariam, if you ever see this, I'm forever grateful to God for you. And because of that, I always envisioned her life as my life in future. So, because I lived with her immediately after she graduated, she says I was her first project. Sometimes when she'd be introducing me, she'd say, "This is my first daughter. I got her when I was on road test." So, Aunt Mariam, here is your road test. And so she finished school, got married, had so many friends. She was not a tomboy in the sense of dressing, but she was a lady that had more male friends than female friends. And yet, she was able to get married. Yeah. So, fast forward, life is happening. We are getting into our teenage, and it's important to begin talking about the sex talk, yeah? And of course, everyone would encourage waiting until marriage. You guys who are as old as I am, do you remember something like NBM? Not before marriage. If you watched That's Life Mwatu. That's Life Mwatu, Vibao. Those were the things they would be saying. Hmm? You won't show your age. Yes, the generation that watched Vibao and That's Life Mwatu, don't show your age, but we know you. Yes, so me, I took it really serious. I believed it. And with salvation, of course, I grew up in Uganda. So there's a campaign that Pastor Semper would run. I don't know where that guy went. He was doing a thing that's... So he used to run a campaign of abstinence. And he would come for conferences and we would make covenants. We used to call them true love weights cards. And this was the content of the card. Also, aka the oath. I, dash dash, your name. I, Doreen Humura, hereby promise myself, my country, my God, my future spouse, that I will keep sexually pure until I get married to him stroke her. We signed those true love weight cards and renewed those vows every term, every conference, every holiday. It was everywhere. So basically, Baby True Love had to wait. Fast forward, life comes and of course feelings are setting in, but recently I was talking to a friend of mine and she says she thinks her covenant has kept her more than she has kept it. Because for her, She says, at a certain point, I have wanted to even do it. But the covenant is the one that has kept me, not me trying to keep the covenant. Like, she has given leeway until, yeah. So I'm one of those, but I don't think I used to give leeway, but God kept me until marriage. And yeah, so I told you I always envisioned marriage, and I think every girl's first love is their father, right? I wasn't any different. So those of you that have had the opportunity to see my dad's picture, though it's, yeah, he was a very tall, slim, dark-skinned, very handsome gentleman with an Adam's apple. I feel very happy that I've remembered this word. I've been struggling to get that English word. So I didn't date much on campus. I dated a guy that suited that description. Handsome, I'm not sure, but the others. Later, but Bambi, he wasn't ugly either. I hope you can cut this out. Yeah, then later, I relocated to Rwanda. And guys, hey, you don't know. There's this guy. He was tall, not slender. I met a giant finally. Not in the movie, in my life here in Kigali. And guess what? That giant was looking for me. Then, what's the opposite of the English word? Like me, people say it was a long distance relationship. So, yeah. And Bambi, he was a calm guy, very quiet. And for me, it's so funny that of all those things, like what made me say, wow, the first day he like said, Doreen, I'd like us to date, blah, 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 was because I met him, and as he was talking, I was looking at the Adam's apple. And no, could all his other weaknesses aside, the guy, I loved like his physique. Or sometimes we'd be walking, and he moves ahead of me somehow. You know, of course, his strides are longer than mine naturally, yeah? So he would be walking, and sometimes I sit back, I step back, and I'm like, Mukama, like, you can actually do this, of like, this is mine. So, yeah, so we began talking during COVID, and when I am joking, I tell some of my close friends that you guys are joking. Temwala about COVID, it's me who saw COVID proper. Because when he came, we began talking in February, and he told me, Doreen, this actually the first day we met in person, because we kept talking on phone. There's lockdown, but he found his way to like move and come to my house. So he told me, Doreen, this is February. Before this year ends, my civil status must have changed from single to married. And the person I'm marrying is you. And of course, being the very strict girl, the NBA, not before marriage. When I say NBA, you say not before. The NBA. So every guy who came and began talking, I would say, what are you up to? Now this one didn't wait for the question. He told me what he's up to like immediately. Wasn't he the deal? Yeah. Who wouldn't fall for that? Yeah, so things happened, Bambi, for real. First premarital counseling session that showed up, we went. And you know, it was easy. Of course, me, I'm a very accountable person. Immediately, every guy I spoke to, 1, 2, 3 times, I'd begin telling my brothers, I'm talking to this guy, what do you think? Find out about him. This one, I did not do those ones because he came serious. But he told me, but what was funny is, he told me, mbu nitujja tuhura n'abantu uzajya ubabwira ko tumaze umwaka dukundana. Ndamubaza why? Ni none se ndavuga ko twahuriye. Aturumva wababwira ko nakwigishije kuri LPD. He's an advocate and I'm a lawyer. So that time I wasn't yet in private practice. Noneho. So, and every person I introduced him to, I remember this particular person that I account to. The day I took the guy to his house, guy stepped out for a short call, and then he quickly told me, Doreen, guy, mukakamu, yanakusobola with your madness. Go. Everyone who knows me, Bambi, knows I talk a lot. So they call me crazy. And because he came very humble as a dove, everyone thought this was the perfect match. Bambi, including myself, because that's what exactly my parents were. My dad was the soft, calm, quiet one, and my mom was the loud one. Yeah, apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Yeah, so we register for premarital counseling, and shortly after that, they begin opening gradually, like for us to have free movement, go to work. And guys, when we began going to work, this guy, those days, official working hours was 7, right? And by 6:45 in the morning, every single day, Monday to Friday, he was at my door to pick me and drop me at work. Lunchtime would be 1, 12:45 p.m. He would be at my workplace to take me for lunch. We would finish work at 5:00 on the dot, Changwa 17:00, depending on which time zone you want to use. He was at my office. Or just enter the car. So Bambi, me as the girl who was trying to save her money, I enjoyed the transport facilities. But I also felt like, this is care. I thought it was love. But unknown to me, it was a form of control. Because, guys, do you know at a certain point, I began doing a master's course because I was always out. So I tried to do an evening master's class so that I reduce my time for going out and hanging out for social gatherings. Now, because I as if had to ask for permission, because I have to be chauffeured to and fro the hangout or any meetup, I even began reducing them. But also, he wouldn't even just drop me. He would say, okay, so you're meeting this person where? Here. Okay, so I'm dropping you. What time will you be down? And I swear, if you said 8, he will be there. And maybe those of you who know me, if we say we are meeting for 2 hours, I don't know how it happens, but we meet for 6 hours. So because of that, I gradually found myself reducing my circle of friends. And he was being all in my world. But thankfully, we got married quickly, Bambi. After the premarital counseling, we had put our wedding date in December. All of a sudden, he asks that it be pushed to October. And I'm like, but why? He's like, I just want to get married, Doreen. Tukuze. I'm like, but even my pastor that I was very opening up to was like, Doreen Rachi. Then I told him, I am not sure. Bambi, those of you who know me, one of the words I still am trying to learn to say is NO. Short as it seems, many as my words are, it's a hard word for me to say. So it went as far as even in this situation. So it felt funny, but I just said, anyway, I've always wanted to get married. And it's so sad that I had nowhere to turn to, because everyone I told, everyone was even mesmerized by the fact that Doreen is even thinking of love and getting married. I think people thought I had no feelings. Much as I was all over boys, like very many male friends, and I basically began investing a lot in female relationships when I got to Rwanda because I found the community a bit judgmental. I call me on campus, people used to call me mama brothers because I was always hanging with the guys. So I'm dating this guy, and you know, from being called mama brothers, every male friend I introduced him to, as far as I can remember, that night a weird reaction happened. And the reaction I remember, the few I remember, actually, I'll just tell you one. There was this guy, very saved. We used to do overnights in his house very often. He used to invite like different music worship groups. So, Auntie, remember those campus fellowships and what that we grew up in? You always felt like if you're in a relationship with someone, they should meet at least 3 of your closest male friends. So that's what I was trying to do. And this time, when I introduced this guy to this guy, the guy was even married. Guy just lost his temper. I didn't understand what it was about. I realized let's say this guy is called John, my friend, and let's say the guy I was dating is called Tonto. So, so I remember that as soon as, I think guys can read body language of each other. When Tonto and John greeted, they looked at each other, and I remember John just turning to his car with a fear of as if, like, and you just run to your car. And I didn't know what had happened. Ngira ngo hari ukuntu yamurebye, Guy akavuga ati, uwo mugezi wanadduka. So that day we go, and then I'm like, of course I got into his car. Remember, he picks and drops everywhere. So I'm like, what's wrong? He's like, nothing. Then he begins saying statements that made me feel like he's uncomfortable dropping me. And John and I lived in the same direction. So I'm like, are you very busy? Can I get out of your car and go to John's car? He's always happy to drop me. Ha! Nari napfuye. Hey! Ushaka kuva mu modoka yanje? Ukajya mya John? Kubera iki? Bambi, John even had a better car. So... we go, and still in that bridge, we reach where I stayed, and the guy is mad. And Bambi, me, I don't understand. Have you ever been mad at a young child, and you expect them to act a certain way, but they continue to act stupid? I think I was being like a child in that moment, and I didn't realize. I kept saying, but what's wrong? So when we reached where he was dropping me off, I tambwira, get out of my car. I'm like, eh? He said, get out of my car. He said, okay. I got out. But he said, okay, maybe he was mad. I'm the kind of person who gives you chances until you give up yourself. Like, you don't give yourself the chances anymore. Like, I'll create reasons for every bad thing you do to me. Like, I find excuses for you. So that day goes by. Another day that suggested his rage, were about to have the wedding. Of course, preps are high. And then I greet someone. I have just reduced. I used to hug. Even now I hug. But if you think I hug a lot, just know that I no longer hug. I used to hug very passionately, give bisous. Hey, even in high school, I used to walk holding hands. And at a certain school, at a certain point, I changed schools, and this school had a weird culture of people who are not straight, and they'll tell me, stop holding hands, people will think you're gay. And I'm like, how, me? So this time, I meet this friend of mine, I'm hugging him, and then we are doing like this, and Guy was there. And when we are going home, somehow the guy lost his temper. When we were going home, he told me, Doreen, you kissed this guy. You gave him a direct kiss. I said, how? He said, you hugged him and kissed him. I saw it. You think I am mad? And I thought he was not straight, no, like nuts, like something you're sure has not happened. Then he proper got angry. That time we used to have curfew. He got so angry that he began shivering while driving, and he parked by the roadside. And then I was like, for peace's sake, let me admit. I told him, I am sorry, nibyo nabikoze, mbabarira ariko. Because curfew yari igiye kugera, mbona ga yari gutitira, ndavuga noneho muri uku gutitira ashobora no kugonga imodoka ahantu, and I lose my life. What's wrong with me? Just saying, I kissed the guy and life goes on. Ndabyemera. Mu gitondo nka saa cyenda, ariko nabuze ibitotsi. Mu gitondo nka saa cyenda, ubusanzwe mbyuka saa cyenda gusenga. But this time, I think I was up most of the night. Ndibaza ariko se, uyu muntu ko mbona atajya yibagirwa anything that happens. Won't he forever guilt trip me for kissing another man in his presence? Mitamwandikira message. Namubwira, hello, tonto. I am very sorry that I'm writing this message now. But what I said last evening, that I kissed this guy, was for the sake of peace and so that we arrive home before the curfew catches us. But I have realized that I cannot forever live by this lie and try to keep covering up. Kuko mu byukuri, I didn't kiss him. Guy got mad and he sent his secretary to pick. I had a copy of the key to his house. To pick the key to his house, ngo ambwire ngo ibyacu byarangiye. So guys, I had already gotten engaged. Secretary man wo ku kazi ke. Ndavuga abantu barabizi. No, that time I wasn't yet engaged. Ndavuga abantu barabizi. Bazabyumva bate? So to avoid the embarrassment, I got my 2 close friends that are very pro-marriage and told them, guys, byachitse, help us connect with this guy. And he was really telling me, I'm going to write to the pastor in charge of the premarital counseling and tell him we are done. Cancel our wedding. He said, oh, I can't go through this. My other lady is Bambi. You 2 girls, God bless you. But you didn't know what you were doing. They really thought they were laughing on me, but we were properly getting into fire together. So they take me out for a lunch, and then they're all quickly telling me, Doreen, you need to reduce your sanguinity. Learn to keep your things. Okay. Third incident. Before the wedding, we had done our civil marriage, and remember he was a monitoring spirit. Huh? He knew everywhere I was every minute. If you want, you can remove that. But yeah, so this time he calls me all of a sudden and I am nowhere. I'm not picking his calls. But the reason I did that is because I had realized he's not happy with me around male friends. And I'd gone to meet one of my friends for lunch. So he got so mad and let me leave this part. Yeah. So we go on. Let me leave that one. It might, I'm not crying tonight. So we go on to date, and he had always told me that he cannot engage a girl, he can't kneel down for a girl. Ngonjewe. But you know, if you have brothers like mine, oh, Bambi, these things, we defend them. I don't know. There are people who call themselves bakonyine. They say ngo na mukonyine utera ivi na ibintu nk'ibyo. So because also my brothers used to say a lot of things like that, I was like, there's even a brother of mine wamubwiraga ngo yego sha ntuzabikore ntuzabikore yazubaka. So we keep dating Bambi, and then finally one day all those stories have ended. The relationship is going on. We are planning for wedding. He's already moved houses. You know this Rwandan culture of you move a house to get married. Oh, but why? Do we live in terrible houses as single? So he had already moved houses, buying things, and blah 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 blah. Furnishing the house. Buying things was too kinyaranda. Ariko kugura ibintu byo gukora urugo. But yeah, trying to furnish the house. And then this particular day, I'm with a friend of mine, and she's like, Doreen, tujya mu mujyi, tutangire gushaka gowns. So we went to town, looked for gowns, but we didn't get any. It was a Sunday, I remember. And then by the time we're done, I'm like, yeah, we shall call this friend Rona. I'm like, yeah, Rona. We are so late. I'm supposed to have dinner with Peace. All these names I'm using are a bit different. I'm supposed to have dinner with Peace. So, and Peace is a timekeeper. So we rush. She helps me dress up, bichi bichi, choose the dress to wear, the shoes, the everything. Someone had taken me to salon, done my everything, my nails, my hair, my girls, I was on point. So we go for dinner. The reason was my friend Peace is big on appearance, and me, I'm not. Vambi. So we dressed up to keep Peace's standard. So when we reached there, I had never been to this place. So when we reached there, I see another car of my friend. And then I write to her. I'm like, I'm just going to ask if you think it's okay, you say it's okay. Should I say the name of that friend or I shouldn't? Okay. So I see the car of my friend, and let us say this friend is called Susan. And I write to her, I'm like, Susan, why are you here? I'm seeing your car. So she's like, I'm doing a gig in another restaurant that was nearby. I'm like, cool. You will later realize why I asked you guys whether I should say this name. So, yeah, so now I introduce Rona to Peace, and they are meeting for the first time. And then while we are still talking, some guy walks in, and he's like, hi guys, are you the ones who booked the other room? I'm like, room? Yeah, like the dinner. And I'm like, guys, here dinner is for booking. Ibyo bintu mizi burayi. Yeah, here dinner is for cooking, is for booking. I'm like, Peace mama, you're very classy. This love. She's like, yeah, I want to take you out for your last dinner before you get married. Yeah, so I'm like, can we come in with Brona? She's like, yeah, no problem. So we go, and as we begin entering, I hear beautiful sound. I love music, by the way. With all this drama, I love music, Bambi, for real. So I hear the sound of beautiful music, and my imagination is like, you know those beautiful big hotels where there's a piano playing, classical music, and it was a beautiful love song that I love. So we go, and like we enter the room, but then they're like, it's not here. We are going to like sit at the balcony, and we continue. And while we get to the balcony, I'm seeing a pool. I'm seeing lights. I'm seeing roses. I'm like, this in my head quickly. I'm like, this looks like those movie things, but it must be for some other people. I am sure that Rona Peace and I are going to sit here, like somewhere else. So while I just get out like this, it was those it was the pool had been decorated with lights, and then there were candles, and then there were roses, and then guess what? The music, the beautiful music I was hearing, had been being played by my friend Susan, playing a saxophone. And then so yeah, that's why I asked today, because in that way you'd, yeah, we move. And then, so I see Susan at the end there with a saxophone. There's no normal light, it's just candles. And guess what? Wakatawa in those candles, the man who would never kneel, his knees down. It was so beautiful, guys. I cried. It was the biggest surprise I've ever had in my life. In life, I've just had two proper surprises. One was a certain birthday that happened at Kanakazana before I learned that Kanakazana does those stinging things. And the second was this one. And after that, life has been normal. Somehow I can predict the surprises. But anyway, not many people have tried after that anyway. So it was a beautiful thing. I got engaged. Beautiful dinner. The nyama was on point. Those who know me know I love meat. The nyama was on point. And my inner circle was present. So I loved the appearance. I loved the sound of music. I loved the surprise of the idea of the engagement. But most importantly, that he knew the right people to bring. So I cried. Guys, I cried proper. Beautiful thing, isn't it? Beautiful as it was, I think it was the climax of my love story and the beginning of my sad story in love. Because after that, I remember it was on the 2nd of August. After that, that is when a lot of things began unfolding. And it became difficult because every person I told was like, Doreen, mm-mm. But even then, I didn't tell many people really, because my friends would tell me, guys love, you keep your things, you don't wash your dirty linen in public. And I didn't think it was necessary to kill the excitement everyone had. My engagement had gone viral, you people. I think basically because people thought me I can't love, and I wouldn't think of the idea of marriage. And I think I was a bit of a popular person at work and in my circles a little bit. So my engagement went viral, and even when things were wrong, I did not. Ntabwo nabitindagaho. I would create excuses because the wedding had to happen and the marriage had to happen. Iriya story rero nari nanze kubabwira. After doing the civil wedding, we did it on Thursday of a week before. And on Friday, this guy looks for me and he can't find me. And when he looks for me and he can't find me, he gets mad, he begins calling. I'm not picking his call because I knew I was out for lunch with a male friend and I didn't want to explain myself. And I also didn't want my friend to go through that drama of, like, remember what John went through? So, because Bambi, he would attack quietly. That I should have known better after that experience, because that time I later ran to Kisementi. I feel like I don't have the energy to get into the details, but allow me to just share what I'm able to. So we had a fight, and I was having to explain myself. I am sorry, I did not do this. And again, he was accusing me of having slept with someone. He got hold of my phone and checked when we met finally, he got hold of my phone, checked my call history for the day, and there had been one male. And then he concluded that I had been making out with that male. And remember, NBM, I did not, Bambi, I was still holding on to this. It did not make sense to me that everything that happened for this guy might have been sleeping with somebody. And then we had Cementi, and he's mad and he's shivering and he almost moves the car while I'm trying to enter. Like those things. You've seen those things in movies, eh? Of like he moves the car when you're entering and the door is open. Almost stepped on my leg. And even then, I did not think of protecting my life. I just wanted to enter so that people at Cementi don't see me in that kind of drama. So finally, I get into the car, and as we are moving, he's like, "Waryamye nawe?" I'm like, "Who?" He's like, "This friend of yours." I said, "No, I did not." And I'm like, "But where in Cementi would I do this from?" Because for me, Cementi, when I think of Quarando, I'm thinking of a good pizza. When I think of Civitas, I'm thinking of good bruschetta. When I think of, like, every place has its thing, but it's all around food for me. So this guy, he's like, hano hari hotel nyinshi ushobora kujyamo mukabikora. I'm like, ziyese at Civitas kagira inkuru. Hari umuntu uzi Civitas for anything else other than bruschetta nziza? I'm in shock. So anyway, we move. So as we are moving, he's taking me home. Hagati aho rero habayeho na first shifting. He forced me to move from the house I used to rent so that ntazasezera. You know the Kinyarwanda gusezera? I used to live in a fence where I was the only female. We were all single people. And I was like at the first house. And this thing of baby had just come. And all the guys, every morning and evening, as they went out and as they came in, they'd knock, "Baby, how are you? You're fine?" Yes. Each of them called me baby. And I called them baby back. And that would make him mad. So Bambi had to try and unlearn babying people. So, again, I am sleeping with another man after my civil wedding. And on our way home, in anger, he raised his hand, almost slapped me, and abisubiza inyuma. Ati ntunkoreshe icyaha, ntunkoreshe icyaha. Remember, he's a lawyer, so he knows the law. The chaha is battery. Ntunkoreshe icyaha. Like, eh? So, Bambi, me, I'm in shock. I know in your head you're thinking by now it should be used that he reacts this way. But yeah, me, I was always in shock. Then we moved home to the house he had now rented because it was a walkable distance to my brother's house where I used to stay. So we are there, and he continued the quarrel, and I'm there helpless, like I don't know what to say. Bambi, much as I am very loud, when things are not for happiness, amagambo arabura. So my friend walks in when he's still quarreling, and we changed topic. He was amazing that he would be calling you a devil just now, and somebody walks in and he hugs you, holds you properly, introduces you as the dream girlfriend, fiancé, or wife. And he would do it so well that nobody would suspect that anything wrong has happened. Guys, this guy would even open doors. Everything movie-like, yeah? So that day, it was Friday, remember? And we went, had a good time with my friends, had fun. After that, I stayed with my matron and her husband. And now they began doing the bridal shower that's not for fun. We call it Senga Koja Talk. We had the Senga Koja Talk. One of my friends, part of the other inner circle, drops me home. Home, not our home, the house we're supposed to stay at. And because they had taken some of my belongings there, I wanted to pick a certain dress, Bambi, that was new. Before that year began, I had traveled for Christmas somewhere in one of those South African countries. Me, I was living my good life. And one of the things I did was buy a beautiful dress in those amazing malls that they have. So this was my dress that I was going to wear on Sunday. But we are telling the guy about tomorrow, and he's just quiet. Nacho yitayeho. So I didn't mind. We interpreted it as his normal quiet self. And he's not like us who get excited about everything. So I go home. Tomorrow morning comes, and we are supposed to go to church. And he writes a message to me. Hi, Doreen. Yesterday, I allowed you to have a good time because I wanted you to enjoy your bridal shower. But I have not forgotten what happened on Friday. I still think you slept with your friend. For that reason, therefore, I am not coming with you to church. You are going to be prayed for alone. Hey, hey. Since Doreen, who everyone at church knows, Banang. Still, I'm fighting with image. At that point, I'm not even thinking about me. I tried to call the guy. He's not picking. Usually when you're dating someone, you know that there is this friend who, if I talk to, he will do everything he had decided not to do. That guy didn't have anybody like that. Whether a friend or an elder person. The person who would try, who he almost had a relationship with, was his mother. So in my panic, I call his mom. And his mom is like, ntabyo yakora, ntabwo yakwanga kujya gusenga. She is reducing the thing to just kujya gusenga. He is not looking at it as part of the church procedures for getting married. She is not looking at my image. Doreen buli muntu akumanyi ku kanisa. Bambi, excuse my Luganda. So she's like, I'll talk to him. I call the woman. Meanwhile, I am not telling anybody about this in my circle. Not even my brother in whose house I am. Why? Bazabyumva bati. Image. So I keep the fight going quietly. My brother is like, but Doreen, get out of the house. I dress up. I didn't tell him we are fighting. After dressing up, he's dropping me, Bambi. He used to drive a very nice truck, pickup, yeah? We enter his car, and I'm like, but have you spoken to Tonto since? He's like, no. I'm like, wamvugishije se ukamenya ahageze kugira ngo tumenye niba duhurira kuri church cyangwa tugendana cyangwa. So my brother is like, ni ngombwa se ntabwo mwavuganye? I'm like, twavuganye ariko at a certain point phone ye yavuyeho sinzi nibiriho. He's like, hey, nta kibazo turaza twananyuriwe, because it was like the street above. I'm like, cool. So aramuhamagara ntiyamfata. Katari gufata. Ati nacyo reka tunyureyo tugende. So we reach the gate. We ring the bell, nara. We knock, nara. We use a stone, na chino. My brother he calls, I call, wapi. My brother reached a point, ajya kuri pick up ye, ayihagarara hejuru, so that he sees through his gate. Kugira ngo arebe niba imodoka ye ihari. If the car was there, it meant he has not left. If the car wasn't there, it meant he has gone to church. Wenda ntabwo ari picking a call kuko ari ku rusengero. Twagiye. Imodoka ntayo twabonye. Turagenda kuri church. Tugeze kuri church. When we reached church, we are entering, and the pastor supposed to wed us. He's like, Doreen, where have you been? I'm like, what's up? You're so late for service. I'm like, Pastor, I'm sorry. Where is your husband? I said, my husband, you're not with him. He said, what are you saying? Where is your husband? I said, I thought he was here. My brother is looking at me. My pastor is looking at me. I'm also looking at them like I know nothing. Finally, I think the pastor figures something is not adding up. He calls him. He's not picking his calls. He got me, put me on the side, said, Doreen, you're not entering this church alone. I said, Pastor, let's just enter. He said, no. Even if you enter, because they're about to call you, you're late. If you enter, pastor that is leading the service will call you, and if you don't go up, it will be funny because everyone will turn to look at you because people know you here. I said, okay. He said, stay here. I stayed. Then after he puts me on the side, he said, but Doreen, what's wrong? I found something light enough to tell him. I didn't get into those details, but sufficient, not a lie, but along the lines. You protect his image. He's going to be your husband, isn't he? You need to protect his image. So later he shows up. I don't know what he later spoke with the pastor, and they tell us you can't come, you can't do the second service. We shall pray for you in the third service. Third service, he showed up very unbothered, alone, casually dressed. Remember, I'm putting on my last vacation dress from where? Outside countries. Dude is casually dressed. I'm like, Mukama. Anywho, so service happens, they pray for us, and after that, we go into like a counseling session with a pastor. He's trying to find out what happened. Then he's doing those things of write what you like about this person. Why did you fall in love with them? And while he's still doing it, the guy was a bit resistant. He's still really painting me bad. He was really good at it. And because he was a calm guy, it was easy to believe him. I'm the loud one. I'm the chaotic one. I'm the, A point reached, I felt like, now this is too much. And I realized the pastor was beginning to believe this, regardless of the journey of life I've walked with him. When I reached that point, I said, but pastor, some of these things he's saying, me are not adding up, because let me read for you this message. And I read this message. Dear Doreen, I am not convinced that you did not sleep with person so and so on Friday. For that reason, therefore, after the wedding, do not move in until 3 months later, when we have done a pregnancy test and enough HIV tests to confirm. Because when you do an HIV test, you need 3 months to do another one to be sure that the first one wasn't wrong. To confirm that you're neither HIV positive nor are you pregnant for this guy. Then you can move into my house. So for the first 3 months, you'll stay with your brother after the wedding. When I read that message to the pastor, he got mad, got the papers he had given us, tore them and said, get out of my office. At this point, every couple is in love. You can't be doing this to each other. Tonto, think about it. I need a meeting with each of you individually. So he had a meeting with Tonto. Me, I didn't have a meeting with him. But what later happened, remember this is Sunday, we are wedding on Saturday. Wednesday comes, and guy is telling me, Doreen, guy, you haven't sent your vows. I'm like, Pastor, I am sorry, but I don't know what to do, but honestly, I don't have the courage to write vows for this man. And on Monday, I felt unsure, so I asked for a meeting between my parents, him, and his mom, because she's the only person he seemed to listen to. And I wanted this meeting to be for him to promise my family, basically my parents and I, that if I get married to him, he will not hurt me. Because the words I told my brother were, numva afite ubwoba bwo gushaka uyu muntu, kuko he sounds to me like abagabo ba kera that would be mad at their women and throw things out of their house. because why? It was reminding me of those local dramas where people get mad and they throw things out of the house. Eh? You've seen that casket you throw, then the neighbor is taking into his house. So I was imagining myself having my property thrown out. So I told him, that's how I feel. And then he said, I do not think he's an educated man. He's a lawyer. He's much older than you. And I really think he wants the marriage. I said, are you sure? He said, I'm sure. I said, why don't we cancel the wedding? He said, no, Doreen, it's too late. Families are involved. The whole world knows. Uzagira umwaku. It's like a curse for canceling a wedding. It's like uzaba udukojeje isoni nk'umuryango. I said, okay. If this wedding must happen, then let's have a meeting where he will commit not to hurt me. Said, okay. We had the meeting. And he was scared at the meeting. And he called me and told me, what is that meeting about? Of course, trying to scare me as usual. Why? Because I'm sure image mattered a lot to him. And then he told me, anyway, niba uyishaka izaba, but all I'll do in that meeting is keep quiet, listen to you, and say I'm sorry. True to his word, he did that. And Bambi, my very saved uncle, I don't have a biological father, he died. My very saved uncle began reading from Mythos scriptures. Doreen, ugomba kuba tonto. Bibiri ivuga ngo abagore mugomba kugandukira abagabo. Don't. Then the mother also starts. Whatever you do, wherever you go in career, your highest office will be being a wife. You will be in the kitchen. You need to find a way to handle a man. I said, okay. Guys, I became the bad one. And my brother, who had wanted to be in that meeting, because I felt like he would have the courage to say certain things I may not have the courage to, because remember, bubbly as I am, not when it's sad. Guys, they got the guy out of the meeting, him and his mom. They said, is this guy married? But no. None say araza gukora iki mu bintu by'abantu bantu bari mariye. Remember that time we are civil married. I said, me, I need him by my side. They said, no. Are you a child? Can't you talk for yourself? So they got the guy out of the meeting. I was left by myself with this uncle who, yes, he loves me, but I met him when I was old. And you know our story as Banyarwanda. I met him as old. I met him in functions. He has not walked a journey with me of seeing me cry and be vulnerable as a child. So he couldn't defend me. So he was just saying scripture, and I can't blame him. That's what he knew. Fast forward, the meeting is rendered useless. The wedding finally happens. And the marriage had its issues. And what I can tell you people is my own lessons from my story is if you can prioritize yourself in making the decision to date or to marry. Secondly, because the reason I say that is, remember that brother of mine I had a talk with? And he said, you will cause us an embarrassment as a family if we cancel the wedding. Today he's very happily married, Bambi. And me, I'm here. The other thing is, guys, I am not anti-NBA anymore. By the way, I'm really pro it. But as you do that NBA thing, please note, it's not just NBA, it's anything in the Bible. It's for your good. it protects you, it will even bring a blessing. But if you abstain, it's not like, you see how they say read hard, then you will score good grades. Abstaining doesn't guarantee a good marriage or good relationship life. But that doesn't mean it's useless. But even if things go for you like they did for me, He's still God and He still loves you. I tell you this because I may not get into that part of my story. But while I was listening to Stella and to the other lady that spoke, one thing kept running through my mind. The other lesson that I just got now is that God cares. When you are in a situation, like remember the situation Stella was in, He made sure that while the workplace is terrible, she has a good family to go back to. Remind me of your name, honey. Your name? Irene. Okay, for the other person who shared her story, while family was being weird, He gave her a reliable husband and reliable friends. Now for me, He gave me a reliable church community. Really, there were a bit of other friends that are not from church, but largely, even people that I had not related with before in church loved me and have loved me since then and stayed. And what else? There's hari n'ikindi. Guys, image bazabyumva bate? Image. Live the reality. Bambi, you don't have an obligation to protect any image because today you are scared that people will talk about you and you'll do everything to avoid being talked about, but they will still talk about you because me, I did everything to avoid being talked about for aborting a wedding, but I later became a hot headline for divorcing in 3 months. So, the reason I'm at this point telling you my lessons, I know it's not usual, is because yes, we got married. There's issues and details I don't want to say in the marriage, but the summary of what I can say is it was full of violence, manipulation, emotional abuse. A point reached and me, bubbly, happy me that used to hug everybody, I would see people and hide. Because I feared anyone who asked me, how are you? Because I wasn't ready to give that true answer. I began believing I can't sing you people. And I loved singing, I loved leading worship. Like a lot changed. I lost my esteem. Yeah, and I'm getting back Mpola. But after all that happened in the marriage, like a lot happened in the marriage that we can't go into today. A lot in that short time. What I can say is, how does this story end? This story ends when one day, precisely on the 18th of January 2021, I went to work normally, and then in the afternoon I received a call. I found many missed calls. Now, because I had realized, I don't know the mechanism he used to use, but if I had a conversation with you one-on-one, after getting married, if we met, he would tell me that you met Ivan, and this is what you talked about. If I had a conversation on phone, he would tell me. If I had a chat, he would tell me. A point reached and he would even send me my chats with people that I didn't know. So, and anyway, all I can tell you is so because of that, I bought another phone with another number. I went to MTN and registered this number in different names. Got another phone that I hid from him. And unknown to me, even the house help we had at home was his assistant in monitoring me. Because I remember there's a time he would ask me, but why do you have this other phone? I said, no, it's new, it doesn't work. He's like, but someone called you. So he was doing a lot of things for him. Anyway, long story cut short, this particular day I go out for lunch with my brother. He was calling me on that other number. I gave that number to exactly 3 people. My brother and those 2 other close lady friends. I think at that point, because the other people didn't know what was happening in my life, because I tried everything to keep it a secret. So I go for lunch with my brother. He had called me on that other number, and he even first said, "Ese biremewe kujyana abagore b'abandi for lunch?" I'm like, "But has it become that bad?" He's like, "Anyway, tugende." So I left the other phone that would be monitored in my kabati at work, and then when I came back from lunch, I found a lot of missed calls from him and from the maid. And then when I called back, he told me, "Doreen, nagiye." Wagiye hese? Nagiye muri hoteli. I thought he was joking, but in the evening, I walked back home and I found the house empty. That marks the end of my story for now.